Hello and welcome. We're very excited today because we have a special guest with us. Christopher is here to talk to us a little bit about the Jags, but also about the wider world of the UK NFL. Alex is here as well.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Well, you're not, are you? You're a bit sick this week.
Yeah, but if I don't say that, people won't hear it in my voice.
I think we should be up front with them. That's what they want to hear. So we're both a bit queasy this week, but we'll try not to pass it on to Christopher. We promise.
Oh God, please no.
How are you doing? Welcome.
I'm good. Thank you for having me. A bit sore in voice after Wembley yesterday.
And sore in heart as well.
Don't go there.
We're going there.
Starting early.
But yeah, thank you for coming in to talk to us. And we think we'll kick things off, first and foremost, with how did you get into supporting the NFL and why did you choose the Jags?
Yeah.
Oh God, that's such a question, isn't it? The NFL in general, I'm a massive American sports fan. All the way through when I was a kid. Loved basketball. I really like baseball. I grew up as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan in hockey as well. So the NFL was always the one that I never really... I hadn't really spent a huge amount of time on. I'd always watch the Super Bowl and enjoy it, but not quite understand it. And I got the opportunity to go to one of the first Jags Wembley game, or the 49ers. I won't mention the 49ers early, but it was when the Jags got blown out by the 49ers in their first trip over, and that's when I first saw the Jags, and honestly, just fell in love with the underdog. It's as simple and straightforward as that. They got absolutely mullered. And then in the fourth quarter, my friend and I, my friend who was a 49ers fan who I'd gone with, she was obviously cheering really hard. And then the ironic cheer of when the Jags scored in late in the game, when it was way out, I thought, yeah, these are my people. This is the team for me. And I was like, yeah. And it kind of just grew from there.
I think I was at that one, actually. I saw a fair few where the Jags got battered the first few. And then, look at them now. Well... Not yesterday.
Come on.
So have you got a secret Blake Bortles jersey in your closet?
That's not secret. I'm very proud to have been part of the misery years in most recent times. I've got too many. I've got too much merch. I mean, I could remortgage a house with the amount I've got, I think. But yeah. I've got 2 MJD jerseys.
Oh, I hate him.
Oh, come on.
No, I hate him. I can't be doing with it. He was there yesterday.
I know he was there yesterday.
Everything he says just riles me.
But he's my height and I can relate to him.
He could still be a running back in the NFL.
Look, I stood next to Calais Campbell last week and I felt even shorter than I already am. Wow. And he is a monster. So MJD is my height. So I'm glad. I've got 2 MJDs. I've got a teal Blake Bortles jersey, which was awesome at the time.
Yeah.
Miss you, Blake.
Do you
a
watch
jersey as well?
Do you watch The Good Place?
Oh God, they've had to rewrite a lot of that lately.
Yeah. They put a great Nick Foles joke in there the other.
Was it him getting broken the first time his name is mentioned?
Yeah. Oh, it was so funny. It was so funny.
Well, as a Steelers fan, I'm probably one of the few fans that's only felt the sting of Blake Bortles. Probably the only one out there.
Twice in a year. Yeah. Twice in a year.
Wasn't it? More than that as well. Ben Roethlisberger just can't beat you guys, but hey-ho. But you met Calais Campbell, and that is all to do with this global ambassador that you have for the Jags. So how did that come about, and what does that actually involve, kind of what you do for them?
I mean, it was basically a competition win to start with. I mean, it was all about having a UK fan and an American fan show their passion for the team and be rewarded, I suppose, in want of a better phrase. They were very kind enough to fly my wife and I out to Jacksonville for the Jets game last week, and they wanted us to show everyone from our eyes the city, so we got some videos and stuff coming out next week, and flew us out to the game, treated us like gods, which was incredibly kind and generous, and we didn't really have a chance to experience anything than just this amazing city and see what it was really like in a game week in America, because it's just awesome.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it was so good.
Well, tell us more about that. So the game week that you spent there, of course, we've just had the London game.
Yeah.
So how did those two compare? Those two experiences?
Oh my goodness. It's night and day. As British fans, we see an NFL game at Wembley, whether it's the team that we support or not, and we enjoy it because that's kind of what we are. But when you go to a game week in the local market, whether it's the Jags or the Dolphins or the Raiders or whatever, on the Jags' point of view, it's so clear that the Jags are Jacksonville. They are the heart and soul of this team. They are everything about this team, and everyone is wearing their merch every single day of the week. There wasn't a day that we walked around the city or even surrounding areas of Jacksonville, like even an hour away, people were wearing Jag stuff everywhere. They are the life and breath of this city, and that was what was so different over here. Obviously, it's because we don't have a team over here, but even when you're walking around and you see, like, maybe, you won't see somebody wearing an Arsenal jersey every single day. Of the
Well,
week,
I do. I live in Holloway Road. It's very
but
unfortunate for me.
But that's so super localized. This
Yeah.
is an entire city. Jacksonville is the biggest city by a landmass in the United States. So it's a massive amount of space to cover. And it was just amazing to see that the city is the team. Or the team is the city, I suppose.
Did you kind of get a sense out there, obviously because in the NFL, the Florida market is quite a crowded one. Mm-hmm. Do they kind of have like, almost like Spurs fans are going to hate me, almost like this Spurs fans attitude where globally Arsenal are probably a bigger brand, and then within kind of the North London centre, obviously it's quite like localised Spurs support. So do you think that Florida natives really get behind the Jags, and then the Florida
because
teams
Miami
like the
is such
Dolphins?
a big team.
It's tricky again. It's about the city, like, because there's 3 NFL teams in Florida. You won't cross. The Dolphins are closer to the Bucks. You won't cross markets there as well. It's such a big place that if you're from that city, that's who you support.
There you guys.
It's not. Oh, I'm from Florida. Let's pick one of the 3. Oh, I live in Greenwich. Let's see. Oh, do I prefer Chelsea or no? It's nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
If you're in Jacksonville, it's the Jags.
Yeah.
And to be fair, even a lot of people that we met that aren't inherently from Jacksonville, that are people that have moved to Jacksonville, they still had an interest in the team, and they would go and they said, we're going to the Jags once or twice a year because we like them and we still follow them. Whether they would wear a jersey every day or not is different. But if you're from that city, that's who you support.
Just to get a sense of it, are you a fan of any like English football teams, or I guess if you're Welsh, you're a big Welsh rugby fan?
Yeah.
Having gone to those experiences over
Maybe
here.
we shouldn't talk Welsh rugby.
Well, that's true. Well, English, we're all hurting. We're all hurting,
we're all
guys.
hurting,
Come on,
yeah.
we can be
No,
together.
you lost
at
in the
this point.
final. I'm more happy than I
Well,
was before.
Anyone but the English.
a result, right?
No, I'm a Man United fan.
Okay.
My granddad went to med school in Manchester, so that was kind of, as a kid, I grew up following the team that he did, which was Man United. But my dad helped reform Newport County after they got exiled. So
wow.
I literally see it from both sides. So I'm used to the good times and the bad
Yeah.
times, and at the moment the bad times are the bad times. But
But like, have you been to many live English sports games? And in terms of the comparison between how the English support their sports and the Americans support
that's a
their
great
sports?
question. I haven't actually been to a Premier League game.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because we're a big family. It'll be a very expensive trip from Barry to
I'll
Manchester.
convert you to a Chelsea fan. You can come
You
with me
won't.
to a game.
You won't.
It's
I think rugby is a really good way of doing it. I mean, obviously it's more national than anything, but even as a Cardiff Blues fan, like, it's just a different type of support. I think because our sports, all right, cricket aside, our sports are much more compact. Our sports are much more time-wise immediate. You don't have a close to 4-hour game where you can chill out, you can go to the bar, and you're not going to miss anything. So I think that is instantly affecting of how you support a live match. Even something like Wimbledon, it might go on all day, but realistically it's going to be best part of 2 hours, but you have to stay silent anyway, because that's the kind of different thing. I think the only thing that I would say that I've been to over here that would come close to it is the Olympics.
okay.
And that's and I didn't necessarily go to any of the like athletics or anything. I went to the Great British Hockey on one of the Saturdays, and it was just awesome. And I think the pride and the passion that one has for a national team in a situation like that is the closest that I would say you get to an American local market supporter from a team, whether it's Jags or anyone else.
I guess obviously because it's such a big country compared to over here, the support here they're so varied, and even kind of like down the road you can have different supporters, kind of as you were saying about the Jags. If you're from Jacksonville, you support the Jags. So I guess we don't have that scaled up massive collective feeling, and I guess for an American sports fan supporting their team, it's kind of almost like supporting a country rather than like a little,
Yeah,
little team.
There's this that funny thing of how many whales is this geographical place? And that's how obviously I'm thinking. Florida's massive, and that's what, a 50th of the United States. And then you look at it and you think, okay, well, if you're a Texas native, you've got, the Cowboys are your team. So it's so difficult to kind of be the same thing over here. But yeah, I suppose in a kind of micro focus of it, the London teams, you wouldn't have that many NFL teams in such a close space.
Yeah, it's kind of...
All right, LA aside now.
Are there any real LA teams? That's
not for long.
I mean, the Chargers definitely don't count. Sorry, Chargers. Goodness
fans, me.
We just insult everyone on this podcast. We don't give anyone praise. But on that, let's move on to the London game, which we were both at yesterday. Alex was pissing about doing his job or whatever, trying to earn money or whatever.
Well, I wasn't doing much of my job. I was watching it.
There you go. You were watching. So... For me, I've been to a fair few of the international series games. I haven't been to any at the Spurs Stadium. Have you been to?
No, I was working.
I think I missed all of last year's and maybe went to the ones the year before. But from what I was seeing yesterday, I thought that the atmosphere was a lot flatter than normal. I don't know if that's because the Jags were meant to be the home team and it wasn't going so well for them, or... where I was sitting, there were a lot of different jerseys, and I didn't really see fans of either team. I know you had a different experience, but what would you say about yesterday's atmosphere and how it compared to games you've been to in the past?
I missed last year as well. That's the only Jags game that I've missed even watching for the last kind of 5 or 6 years. It was a family christening and birthday combined, so I got told I didn't have a choice.
That's tough.
You didn't have a sneaky...
Double whammy.
Yeah.
Was it? Fair enough. So I didn't go to the Jags Eagles last year, but I'd been to every single Jags game before. I saw them lose against the 49ers. That was the first time they came over. I saw them lose against the Cowboys, which was an awful game, and it was the coldest one I've ever been to. So they beat the Colts, beat the Bills, absolutely destroy the Ravens. And by that point...
I can get on board with that.
So good. I mean, it was awesome. Yeah. By that point, 2 or 3 years ago now, I'd started to notice that there were a lot of Jags supporters, not as their primary team, but as like a second team, because they've given up a home game to come to London, and as Brits we respect that that's a thing. So if we know we're going to see them every year, if season ticket holders like ourselves for the London games, we're going to see them every year, that got a lot of people on board as their second team. And do you know what? If that translates into a home crowd for the Jags game, if they're not playing their team, that's great. No one's asking everyone to give up their team they've had for 30 years to do that. I think that would be a misjudged want. But yesterday, I honestly can say that I saw more teal around pre-game than I have in any of the home games. Again, this is my experience, and I appreciate there's a lot of people certainly watching from America that didn't see this, and a lot of people said, there were loads of Texans fans. I think the only thing is that Texans fans had something to cheer for yesterday. We had literally nothing.
I didn't see many Texans fans at all there, to be honest. I just think it was, as I say, quite quiet in general, because, as you say, the Jags didn't have anything to cheer for.
So those neutrals that were going, knowing that they were going to cheer for the Jags on that particular day, even if they were, Ravens fans or whatever, there wasn't anything to cheer for. And I think as Brits, when you make that decision that you're sticking with a team, even if it's not on the day, even if it's not your team, we were kind of like, we were stopped. We were stopped straight. I was sat with the Jags staff, I will say that. So in my immediate vicinity was all teal. But I was sat next to a Patriots fan and a Bears fan. And they were like, we're cheering for you today, don't worry. And I'm like, great, because this is going to get awkward.
Well, the Patriots are probably bored of cheering for the Patriots, so, they need someone else.
Well, not after this week,
exactly.
Oh, that's what it feels like. Yeah. But yeah, I actually thought, leading up to it and the actual tailgate stuff aside, I thought the whole atmosphere was great. I thought it was actually organised better than most of the Wembley games have been organised. Like, logistically, I thought everything was much clearer, and I thought that's actually akin to how the Americans do it. Like, if you need to go to this seat, go this way. Simple things like that I was actually really impressed with yesterday. Inside the stadium, why do you have Texans artwork and Texans promotional videos when it is a home game? And I only appreciated how much of a punch in the face that is to the Jacksonville fans or any of the home team fans, I'm talking about it's a Raiders home game, a Rams home game, Bengals, whatever, why are you playing promo and like a video and hype stuff for the away team if it is a home game? That's not how it works. You wouldn't go to Chelsea and watch an Arsenal promo video saying, please cheer on Arsenal. It just wouldn't happen. So why was that a thing? And I don't think I've noticed that being such a thing until yesterday. So whether it was yesterday and I just can't remember it before, or whether it never happened before, I don't know. But I was a bit taken aback by that.
Yeah, and I think British fans might have this view of American football because our primary sport over here is football. The opposition fans are segregated from the home fans. We do a lot of chanting, a lot of singing. It's quite an aggressive atmosphere. I think that they can look over at American sports and think that it's not as passionate. And then when they come to games like Wembley and they see atmospheres like yesterday, that can kind of cement that point. But I don't think that they're understanding that the atmosphere isn't translating from America over to here as it should be. But do the Jags fans travel quite well to these Wembley games? Or does it tend to be...
They did yesterday, I will say. And obviously I went to the Jags-Jets game last week as well. In Jacksonville, I spent a lot of time with the fans that I already knew and a lot of time with fans that I'd never met before. And actually, there were a lot of Jags fans that had come over yesterday. By a lot, I wouldn't necessarily want to guess the number. I will say that the Texans fans travelled very well yesterday. I don't think that there were more Texans fans than overall Jags fans, but the Texans fans I know, and as you guys know from going to the games past, they've been calling for the Texans to come over for years. Yeah. So this was the time that they came, and Houston to London is a much easier flight to access than Jags to London. There's no direct flights from Jags to London. You have to change. There's flights from Houston to London. So it's an easier journey to make. It's a more affordable journey to make. So I understand, from a very neutral point of view, I understand why there may have been more Texans fans from America that came. But overall, I'm quite happy with how many Jags fans came from Jacksonville or America in general. There was a guy sitting next to me from Minnesota who was a Jags fan. So, that was quite cool. But it's every year as well. So some people, I imagine, would say, okay, well, we won't go this year, we'll go next year. And I know people that are coming or were planning on coming, whether they've changed their mind in the last 24 hours. They're planning on coming next year as well. And they're like, we couldn't go last year, but we want to go to London. We've always wanted to go to London, so we know the Jags are playing, so let's tie it in. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it was for me yesterday. I found it quite strange, and what I hadn't seen before, obviously, because I'd missed a year of the games last year, and this was my first this year, is I was surprised by the number of empty seats. And I put that out on Twitter yesterday, kind of made a little bit of a snide at Wembley for charging £6.90 for a pint.
It was do you know how much a large popcorn was?
It was £10.
£10.
£10 for a
I know, I used to work for Odeon, so I know how much the price point is on that.
And I paid £10 for a bucket of chicken and chips, which was like 4 chicken strips and just chips. The markup is insane, and you think that for a game that lasts 4 hours, they think if we lower the prices, people are going to spend more, and we'll get the same amount back anyway, and people will enjoy it more.
Yeah.
So I think that perhaps this might be killing atmospheres a little bit at Wembley as well, is because I don't think that they're getting the game day experience right, personally. I arrived maybe half an hour before the game. I didn't go to the tailgate. Did you go to the tailgate?
We went in quickly for a free Pepsi Max.
Okay. Oh, well, brilliant. Why not?
Which is great because I'm more of a Coke person. But it's
oh, I'm a big Pepsi Max fan, so that's not, that's not debated.
Keep the sponsors happy.
Yeah, I don't know. No. If you want to sponsor us, Pepsi Max, please do.
Yeah. Always thinking.
Because I could do with a lifetime free supply of Pepsi Max because I'm addicted to it.
Pepsi Max got caffeine in it, and I was livid when I found that out. I was like, I'll drink a Pepsi Max late at night while I'm watching the game. I won't be too awake. I'm like 5 o'clock somewhere. I'm buzzed. What's going on?
Yeah.
Read the back, and they're like, oh, it's for flavouring. No, come on, I want to be asleep by now. Yeah. I'm a new dad, I need to get every minute I get.
But yeah, free Pepsi Max. And when I arrived, they were shutting everything down, so there wasn't kind of a lot going on outside the stadium. But I don't think that the Wembley atmosphere is working so much. From what I saw on the TV of the Spurs games and the feedback from how people are describing that stadium, they just seem to be getting it right. And I'm actually going to a game, a women's football, Arsenal-Tottenham, to check out the new stadium in a couple of weeks' time, so I can kind of see a little bit how it goes down there. But that just seems like a more purpose-built, well-designed NFL stadium. And I think going forward, they're going to have so much more success if they stick it out there. But
is it about 20,000 less than Wembley?
Yeah, and everyone's just a lot more on top of it because they have that retractable.
I've only seen pictures. I didn't go this year, but it reminds me of CenturyLink Field, Seahawks ground. It's very steep.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got that one big stand at the end of the pitch. Friends of mine who are Spurs season ticket holders, my wife's uncle actually, says it's great. And I'm quite a big stadium geek, so I quite like go. I want to go to Lambeau. I want to go to the new Minnesota Stadium. I like things like that. I like going to a stadium. It's growing up with the Millennium Stadium on your doorstep. I'm very blessed. But it looks great, and it looks like an NFL stadium. I think it's great that it's great that Wembley's got the heritage of being a world-renowned sports stadium. It's very wide. It's very open. The sightlines are great in Wembley, but it doesn't necessarily feel as intimate as you want it. Saying that, last week at TIAA Bankfield in Jacksonville was one of the best stadium experiences I have ever had. And that's of any sport, in any team. It's awesome. It was very nice to go to an open-air stadium. It was quite nice to go to a stadium with, all right, it was 32 degrees and humid and chucking it down. It was so nice to not have a roof. It was quite a novelty. Now I know when it's really hot and sunny, the roof not being there in Jacksonville is a bit of a problem for some of the fans, but that's where the away team are. So it's an advantage. But it was quite nice that I think experiencing an NFL game in particular in an American stadium against Wembley is it's too different to be even relatively close. You're right, the prices are crazy, but that's stadium, so I do take a bit. I didn't actually spend much money there yesterday.
How much was the fried chicken and popcorn over in Jacksonville?
Well, I was in a fully comped suite, so I don't know.
Living the highlights.
It was 2 words: free bar, absolutely mortal. No, it was great, and I'm not normally one for the corporate experience because I think Wembley is the one where it's like you see those 3 blocks at centre field, whether it's an FA Cup final or the NFL. And 10 minutes into the second half, they're still not back in their seats because they're enjoying £10 worth of chicken and chips that they haven't paid for.
Yeah.
If you watched The Apprentice task last year, that was awful. Goodness me. But so I, as quote unquote regular sports fans, you don't necessarily see that as a good thing, having a corporate thing. But it was completely different in America. It was like going in. You could. So we were in the corporate section just above the end zone. It was. Called the Terrace Suite. There were about 12 different buffet stations of whatever you had, prime rib as much as you want and things like that. Oh yeah, and it was absolutely hammering it down like a monsoon. So Jess and I went, you know what? We've been at the tailgate all morning. We had beer and shots for breakfast. Literally, that was what we had. So we're going to go and we're going to have a little bit of food, watch it on these enormous TVs. But you're in the best sports bar in the world because everyone is there for the same reason.
Yeah.
It's not like Samsung have taken you in and you have no interest, but you've gone because it'll please your corporate clients to watch the FA Cup final. It's actual fans going into these things, so it's a completely different experience. And I'm sure there are fans that use those kind of corporate things in Wembley, but even on that level of the game day experience is what I'm saying, it's completely different. So I don't know what the concession prices were like in TIA Backfield, but I know that it's more affordable than over here. You look at the Falcons in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium or whatever the official name is. They've made a point of making concessions affordable. So if you are going with a family of 4 or 5 or 6 with some kids who are going to need a soda or a pizza, they've made it really affordable.
Yeah.
And I think new stadiums in markets that are increasing their capacity like the Falcons have, they're making an effort.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. But game day food in America is completely different to here. You look at the baseball and game day food in baseball stadiums is a thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Well, yeah, I've been to a Giants game years back, and it's number one, it was cheaper, and number two, the whole thing is with Wembley, they're charging a fortune, very standard crap food. Whereas,
that's it.
Yeah, if you're charging a fair bit of money for something that's awesome, if you've got like a pulled pork, delicious, like super loaded hot dog thing, you're gonna pay for it and you're gonna enjoy it, and it's a bit different. And there's just so much more variety. But I was having a chat with NFL Princess on Twitter yesterday, and she says that it's $8 for a beer at Lambeau, and then another guy got involved and said it was $19 for a 500ml can in the Coliseum. but $7 for a bottle of beer at the Mercedes-Benz Dome. So I think it can massively vary, dependent on the market. But for me, like at Chelsea, because I was trying to explain to them, because they're from America, what the comparison is. It costs less than £5 for a beer at Chelsea, which is actually cheaper than some.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's like $4.80. And I don't think, even though fans complain about prices, certainly of tickets at football matches, and sometimes the food and the drink, they're upscaling from what you're normally paying at a football match, so as I say, like £5 for a beer at Chelsea, to going to $6.90 for a pint of one choice of beer, or I think they had 3 choices yesterday at Wembley, is quite a big jump. So they have to know their market rather than being like, oh, well, that's what the NFL charge, so we can charge that for our games. So I just don't think it works, really.
I'd not even thought of that, really, until the last couple of days. Like, the imbalance of everything for the London game and concessions is a thing. Because it is such a thing in America, if you get any Americans come over here, which we are, that's the whole point, it needs to match what they have. There was a very big hot dog I saw yesterday. It was about 2 foot long.
They had like these nacho things that were huge, but I think someone said they were £22 for these
goodness
things.
me.
I was like, why are you spending that much? But I think had Khan bought, because he tried to buy Wembley and that all fell through, had he bought Wembley, it would have been a completely different setup and everything would have been geared more towards this actually working a bit better and being a bit closer to an American football kind of setup, I feel. I don't know, obviously. Can't see into the future as my predictions on the podcast show, but basically what this is all gearing to is trying to get a London franchise of some sort into the UK. And obviously as a Jags fan, this is kind of a little bit close to home because everyone's been going, oh, the Jags will come. And that's why they were doing those games every year, and it kind of was geared towards that. That now looks like that's just not going to happen. Yeah. But just kind of interested in what you think about, will there ever be a London franchise? And number one, how do you think it will work? And do you think it will work?
Simple answer, no. It's never going to happen. And I think they maybe... It's like carrot and stick, isn't it? I think old Commish was like,
Rog,
good friends with Rog here.
So it's the joke of viability week in the Jags. That's Khan used that phrase a few times. Is it viable to, Yes, the London game may provide finances in lieu of smaller crowds in a smaller market in Jacksonville that having the game in Jacksonville wouldn't give. So on a purely financial basis, that's a good thing. It's not a good thing to lose a home game that the fans for 20 years before coming over have, season ticket, la la la. Yeah, I get it. I think that's one of the only reasons that and the kind of being a smaller market that the Jags were always the kind of butt of the joke. The Jags of Jacksonville, going over there last week, proved that. They ain't going anywhere. Like, it's just not happening. And I think as British NFL fans and as British Jags fans, we don't want the Jags over here. The Jags are from Jacksonville. That's where my team belong,
Before you went over, did you want them over here?
Nope.
No,
because they're from Jacksonville. That's it. I just wasn't lucky enough to be able to afford going over to Jacksonville yet. And the Jags took me over, so I can afford that. But it was, I mean, that's why I think I'm incredibly grateful to what's happened, is that I was dreaming of going to see them. And I think, if you're a Vikings fan and if you're a Bills fan, you want to go and see your team where they are. Yeah. There shouldn't be a question of moving that team over here because that's where they belong. But, you've got the stadium lease coming up in a few years at the bank and, what happens then? So there are enough legitimate questions of the future of the franchise to at least warrant a little worry. But then you look at the fact that Khan is putting, and he has put so much effort into the city of Jacksonville. However, some ways his words in the last week can be taken, about if the 2020 is a big year for the Jags, home attendance needs to improve. At the end of the day, home attendance will improve when you win. And nothing should come before winning. So, whilst we all appreciate how much he's doing, the team are the first thing, and the team should be the first thing. And if the team don't win, the crowds don't come.
Well, and when this
because we're fed up of seeing them lose.
Well, yeah, and when this whole discussion started of like getting the Jags to be the London team, no offence, but they sucked.
Oh, yeah. There's no offence taken. That's
right. And now they're actually, especially after the magical Blake Bortles playoff run that still hurts my soul to this day.
Miles Jack wasn't down.
Doesn't matter you won anyway because the Steelers. That's all I care about.
Twice.
Stop saying that. But I've forgotten where I am now. I'm so flustered. I'm giving up.
You're jealous of Blake Balls.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's move away from the reality for a second and talk about the hypothetical.
Okay.
So you say that you don't think that there will ever be a London franchise.
No.
But let's imagine for a moment a little thought experiment that we enjoy doing on the podcast. Let's imagine for a moment that there were a London franchise.
Okay.
Now,
Rog is on the phone. He's just ringing you up.
Yeah,
Rog.
he's asking,
Christopher.
he's
How you
asking
doing?
for your advice.
Yeah, Rog. We both mimed the phone.
Oh no,
That was
we always mime the phone, Rog.
And especially on a podcast, it really works really well.
We
good-
mime all
good
the time.
medium.
We mimed you putting something in a box last week.
Yeah, we did.
the
And we
49ers,
genuinely did the whole thing. So, Rog is on the phone. He's asking for your advice in how to set up this London franchise. So tell us, about this team. What's the team name? Who's their mascot? What's the logo? Give us the rundown.
Are we talking an existing team that we're moving over, or a brand new franchise that they're awarding to expand the league?
We did it where you can pick a franchise and you can move them over.
You
I
can
think
move
you
them over.
move the Chargers, I move the Lions.
Yeah, but you can change the team. You can change everything about
So,
them.
I think
It's a reboot.
let's imagine that we're all neutrals. None of us support a team, and it's purely a business decision.
Yeah.
You take away a team that have not got a huge following in their market. It's the Chargers.
Oh, that's
said
double
it.
whammy.
I said it. Oh.
Chargers fans are just.
The Chargers they're playing in the Galaxy Stadium at the moment, aren't they? They can't even fill it. I mean, all right, they're sharing the stadium, but that's the point. They're sharing a stadium, so they're sharing a market. You only need one team in literally the same place. It's not like you were saying with Florida. There's 3 teams in the same state. That's fine because they're so far apart. Yeah, it's Tampa is 3.5 hours from Jacksonville or something like that. So you're far. That's like supporting Derby and Arsenal. You're not in the same market. I would take the Chargers if it was an existing team, but that's aside the point. You've got to make sure you've got a decent stadium, but you're building a team from scratch regardless. So
you can build your own stadium.
Yeah,
that's what
so you can build it. So I think as long as you've got a stadium with about 30,000, you look at somewhere like the Valley for Charlton Athletic. Not a huge stadium, but a wonderful place to go and watch a game of football when it's full. Great atmosphere. You've got the stands facing each other. It's great. It's really good. So imagine somewhere kind of like a really good League 1/Championship venue, a Cardiff City Stadium, maybe like that. You throw them somewhere where you maybe share a ground with a Premiership team. That's fine. You use something like the pitch, like Tottenham. Now, if we're going to adapt the Chargers for London, I'd call them the London Thunder.
Oh, yes.
Very nice.
Because it's taking inspiration from the team they were, but changing them completely. But you've still got, the Chargers fans will be annoyed, but, sell out your stadium.
But you're giving them an olive branch.
An olive branch,
Yeah,
an olive branch. And that's that's like it's a reboot of a franchise, not a reimagining of a film. That's not somebody taking Star Wars and setting it all underwater. That's,
that sounds good. Though.
No more that's where Jar Jar Binks live. We don't want to don't want to go there. So yeah, if it was an existing franchise, I think someone like the Chargers would work. They've got enough of a following that they can still be supporting of the people behind it. But yeah, so London Thunder, I thought always
to play in a dome then. It could be the Thunderdome.
Thunderdome, of course. Yeah. It's not arena football.
No.
So that's the Millennium Stadium then, or the Principality in Cardiff. Yeah, that's too big. You can't start a British franchise. Well, let's face it, a European franchise. We're still in at the moment. It's not January. The dome would be good, but I think if you're bringing them over, you use the weather to your advantage. We're going to be playing in the winter. You're going to be playing in the winter. You've got Arizona, albeit in a dome in the middle of the desert. They're coming over here to -3 and like 45 mile an hour gale force winds blowing the rain sideways. You use that.
Never kick.
Never kick.
4 and 27, you still go for it.
Yeah.
You're doing the running game on 4 and 27.
Is Phil Rivers? Is Phil Rivers coming over as well? Is he coming over to play?
Yeah, but he's called Phil Thames now. That's the thing. So it's fine.
Love it.
You're rebranding the whole thing. No, I think if it was a if we have to have that conversation, it was original. I think the Chargers would be a good thing. But if it was an imaginary franchise, the London Badgers.
The London Badgers. Talk to us about uniform. Obviously the black and white, but what kind of combination we're going here?
black and white with a massive splash of red when you hit them.
Oh, yes. Well, they all
Because
just
when you
have, like, blood packs in their, in their pants or something.
Because when your team run against us and lose, it's a car crash.
Oh, there are layers to this team.
And then like the fan stand can be called the lair. Is it a badger lair?
Badger lair,
Set.
yeah.
It's a set.
Sure it is.
It's a badger set, isn't it? I
Is
think.
that what it is?
I don't know. I've only ever.
Your knowledge of badgers far outweighs ours.
Yeah.
What
But
would you
also-
call your defense? Because they have to have a special name.
Oh.
And mine was Storm
claw.
The claw.
The claw. You have a badger claw.
Badger's claw.
A badger's claw.
I can see them going to the Super Bowl 2025. Get on the phone to Rog.
Yeah, and then the press headlines like write themselves the next day when they lose because it's just roadkill, isn't it? That's
Yes.
nonsense. I don't know. The London badges, I think, because they'd be the British badges. It's a nice alliteration.
Okay, yeah. So we're
But
including everyone.
would you call them the London or would you call them the British? Because they're going to be the only team that you're going to have in Britain. So
London. Screw the rest of England.
correct.
Wow.
And the rest of the UK.
I've thought about this a lot though. Like, there's so many imaginary, and as a writer as well, like your mind goes wild. So I think you'd have to, if ever a London team come over, which I don't think they do, and I don't want. You'd have to make it iconic. I think you could call them the Bulldogs, but that's obvious and it's got bad connotations.
It's boring.
It's rubbish. I think Thunder is you represent something in Britain. The weather is going to be your advantage, so play with it.
Well, I think us three should probably give Rog a ring and ask him to let us set up the franchise. Yeah. But Christopher, it's been an absolute pleasure.
No problem.
Before you go, who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Ooh, I mean, it's hard to see anyone other than the Patriots getting there at the moment, but there's only one undefeated team.
Yeah, there is.
That will lose in the championship game and miss out on the Super Bowl completely. So
Okay, enough of this. We got to move on.
I think it's the Patriots this year. I think there's no one in the AFC that's near them, but I would quite like to see Russell Wilson get the MVP of the Super Bowl this year because I think he's playing better than his record seems.
We'd all like that, wouldn't we, Alex? We love Russell Wilson.
I don't love Russell Wilson,
You
but I
going-
have to admit that he's a strong
5
contender.
touchdowns yesterday.
Strong contender for the MVP. He is playing very well.
I think he's creeping up to be the Seahawks are going to be a challenger come January, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. And I think even though they're doing all right, I think we might see them in the Super Bowl again.
And, after his famous 450 yards rushing on my Madden game the other week.
That doesn't count.
It
for
does
anything.
count, and we love him. Right, boys, I think we should leave it there.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming
Thank
to
you
visit
so
us.
much.
That's my
It's been
pleasure.
great.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah. See you.
Bye.